Harnessing our brains for change is a supreme power worth having when commencing on a personal growth path. Habitual patterns formed in our minds generate reactions on a physical and emotional level, whether they are desirous or not. Our brain is an exceptionally powerful tool in the way we create our life. It ties directly into how our emotions, behaviors, and outer experiences come to be. Therefore, it is important to have a good foundation and comprehension of the reasoning behind its capabilities and knowledge of how it interconnects to the way in which we participate in our outer physical world. It is the absolute starting point to adjust and revise the uncomfortable areas of our life that scream out at us for alteration. Although impossible to describe without some scientific reasoning, a basic understanding of how the parts of our mind work is essential if we truly want to begin a transformation within ourselves and subsequently our external environment. This is because the different areas of the brain are what collectively portray to us our perception of reality on an individual basis. With the desire of a new reality or new situations, any negative patterns within the brain have to be altered for successful and long-term results. The most primal portion of our mind is the subconscious. It is an extremely significant piece to consider when making the decision to reshape individuality. Its sole function is to be a huge repository of information, feelings, memories, and behaviors. The data it stores has been received at one time or another via the conscious mind and feeling states, and the most powerful messages are picked up in our early childhood. Very much like a video recorder, and never sleeping, it captures all experiences we've ever had or will have and consistently absorbs external messages. Therefore, thoughts and manners of conducting ourselves are deep-rooted. In our adult lives, this is generally undergone in an automatic fashion, being that it holds everything we have ever participated in and learned from the sum total of our life exposure. It uses that information for later retrieval. Very rarely can anyone say they consciously choose their emotional responses to life's everyday involvement. There are provocations that our subconscious brain recognizes within our external environment so it may quickly find the category of background correlating to what is happening. By filtering back through our conscious mind almost instantaneously, it prompts us on how to respond in an automatic way and causes mechanical behaviors to occur in our emotional and physical state within fractions of a second. This is the source of all of our impassioned reactions and internal feelings produced within the body. By coming into alliance with this power, we can alter it for desirable outcomes when we find that specific emotions and replies no longer perform for us in a beneficial way. This portion of the brain is the source of all desires, plans, inspirations, and aha moments. The extraordinary learning capacity and storage area it contains is monumental and without boundaries. Moreover, it is the origin of all invention and innovation, and can bring us information we may never have thought possible. From this part of our mind, there can be flashes of ingenuity that we fleetingly acknowledge or decide to examine in great detail. Working for us as a close companion to ensure our survival, it enjoys cooperating as our friend and will allow us to delicately mold it for our benefit. However, if not monitored closely, it will run on its purely reactionary responses developed in early childhood, which can be detrimental to a person's entire existence. By basing an inaccurate analysis of a situation on how it relates to previously stored information, it has the strength to make or break the life of a person. Consequently, there are times when adjustments need to be made in its incorrect commands regarding outward events. With full comprehension of how to use this advantageously, we are able to manage it in a way so as to subtly guide it for benefit. In turn, it will do the same for us. When discovering these facts, it is critical to accept the power we have at our disposal and take ownership of it. That is, if we are inclined to make intentional alterations in our life. We can allow this apparatus, with its well-intended and automatic protective instincts, to be in charge, or we have the choice to utilize its boundless intelligence to our advantage on a very conscious level. We are all able to recall certain memories that are happy or exciting. Others may be experienced as fearful or frustrating. These are feelings translated through the conscious mind when we anticipate something that may happen in the future. At a deep-seated level, every one of us knows how to feel based on what is formerly encountered. It's easy to anticipate a certain outcome founded from memories or events accumulated in the subconscious mind from the past. With analytical uncertainty, not all of this may be something we care to relive. All the same, unless negative collected information is revised, antagonistic responses and feelings will, without doubt, continue. By ensuring our instincts are top-notch, this organ extends security in all situations. For most of us, in our current way of living, we no longer have the need to go out and hunt for meat, or sustain in the wild in ways previous generations did. Therefore, our durability faculties work in overdrive for other things, such as permission to act or feel a specific way. Each person's uniquely designed subconscious arrangements began directly from infancy. As the child you once were, with a brain not fully developed, it may have been very difficult to contextualize what was actually happening in any situation. In other words, the meaning can be misconstrued and impress upon the subconscious mind with incorrect information. This can, and generally will, last a lifetime if not corrected. As babies, we are all born at peace and in tune with the infinite source we're connected to. It's easy to see a small child's innocence and complete reliance of others in their new environment. By design, the brain begins absorbing and collecting information instantaneously when we come into the world. This is crucial for adaptation to a new habitat in a way that ensures existence continues. Most importantly, this literal part of our mind does not make a determination concerning how valid data or information is. Accepting as fact whatever the conscious mind and feelings send to it as fact, it is fashioned to capture any evidence it's given so the information can be accessed for later use. Unlike the conscious mind, which can evaluate and make a determination or judgment concerning if the data it analyzes has any meaning or truth to it, the subconscious has no logical or rational reasoning capability whatsoever. It has a job to do, and it doesn't discern whether it's right or wrong in the information it is feeding back to us. The power infused in it is immensely significant. Taming it to work in our favor is unavoidable if we choose to have the life we desire. In order to make adjustments, the conscious mind must step in to make a decision as to whether something is true or not. This is so the primal portion does not try to override and make its own validation. A person may live a lifetime feeling broken and never understand it stemmed from early childhood representations and what was directly related to their particular environment. Sometimes this causes them to berate and scold themselves in an internal nature, which only adds to any issues already present. If a judgment is continually repeated to a child when the subconscious mind is most impressionable, and without the necessary defenses to reject harmful statements, over time those statements become an embedded belief in the mind of that child. Unfortunately, this happens to most of us in some form or another as behaviors become cycled patterns. It may even occur with things intended to offer us good, but that aren't necessarily beneficial. This is not to say we should place blame on those that caused formidable influence where we're concerned. It is wise to understand that they themselves were only broadcasting what they were taught on a subconscious level. What we are taught at a young age is only natural to pass on to younger generations. When we become adults, we have the choice to evaluate the meaning behind our words and actions based on our arrangements of thinking. Becoming clear on why subconscious behaviors happen and discovering how to make amendments to the structures for our benefit provides the opportunity to pass those alterations along to others. This yields the chance to break any outdated cycles so the whole of us are able to grow. The intention then becomes one of nurturing this impressionable portion of our brain. We can gently teach it how we would like it to respond in accordance with what we are determined to design for the self. With the subconscious as merely the skeleton regarding how we intentionally revise our existence, we now have to cover it with the flesh of application. Through repetition and dedication, it is easier than most understand. We can relate the autopilot or subconscious mode of our brains in the way in which we learn to drive a vehicle. At first, it takes concentration in the form of talking to ourselves to remember all of the things required to make the car go in the manner designed. Can you remember when you first acquired the knowledge of how to drive? You probably realized early on that it took deliberate and conscious attention to push the gas pedal in just the right manner so as not to go too fast or too slow. Attentiveness was required to stay within the lines of the road and closely monitor other vehicles. It likely took you a multitude of times to remember to use all of your signals correctly. Practice took place to be observant of all the street signs and lights. Your awareness to the mirrors was more prevalent. In order to operate the machine efficiently, you would have been conscientious of every muscle movement in your body. Being that it's vital to drive safely, your consciousness would have been on heightened alert to make sure it was watchful of every sight and sound impacting the next maneuver. Once becoming proficient in driving, your brain gradually let loose of the perceptiveness it once required to be a competent and skillful driver. In fact, for most of us, there have been times when we're driving down the road, so enthralled in other thoughts that we eventually realize we've gone a mile, or even several miles, without conscious regard to what our brains had automatically learned to do. Have you ever been hypnotized by the road itself, where you lose all concept of the time passing you because your mind was completely somewhere else? This is the autopilot mode. It's exactly what happens to us in other areas where our subconscious thoughts reveal we don't need to be conscious of them anymore. The system can continue to perform a skill it's developed without our being cognizant of it. Accomplished through initial and conscious application, it becomes ingrained with repetition. At first, you had to tell yourself to be aware of how you were driving with diligence. Practice and reoccurrence of doing so made it automatic. Internal chatter at the time may have said something to the effect of, "Watch the road, check your mirrors, and don't push the gas pedal too hard." The words used would have become duplicated to the point that your brain responded in a way so as to say, "Okay, I know what to do now." This is exactly how we use our conscious mind as the means by which the subconscious mind receives and reserves information. If we choose to make it dominant, shifts in belief systems can happen at a gradual pace and over time, or in a dramatic fashion of new insight. To make opportune changes, we must consciously determine which beliefs and thoughts are beneficial and which are not. Deliberately monitoring what is now acceptable as fact and what isn't is the first step in the building blocks to propel a person into greatness. Unlike the subconscious mind, the conscious mind has the power to act and form a perception of any data being received. It may then establish a belief based on that perception. Examples are good or bad, right or wrong, up or down, left or right. Through examining any given circumstance, consciousness determines its grasp of that situation and communicates with the brain to decide the necessary action to take. This adheres to the purpose of allowing or disallowing and transporting the data it interprets into the data storage warehouse of the subconscious mind. The conscious part of our brain is the tool for focused and effective mind development. If utilized correctly or consciously, it can play a huge part in dramatically enhancing life beyond what some may currently be consciously aware of or believe to be possible. Once we become aware of making conscious choices in our thinking, we have the power to begin making shifts that produce results. Because of its reasoning ability, consciousness has the capability to train and control the subconscious mind to react in precise and predetermined ways. By purposefully deciding what data or information it sends to the subconscious mind for collection, amendments can be made. This is the portion of mind that we have complete control over. As an example, if there was a program on your computer that was not functioning ideally, and a newer version was available, you would want to download that advanced model so your computer could run more efficiently. However, if the update was not administered, the prior variant would continue to operate in the manner it always has, having no knowledge of the more proficient skills available. The conscious mind is the area that can add updated data to the storehouse for optimum advancements. It is also the area we have the ability to rely on and use most in our physical state. Competency to make specific interchanges in our automatic thoughts, and therefore our beliefs and reactionary responses, becomes merely a skill to master once the understanding is there. Consistent monitoring is the key to success. With new information, our subconscious is allowed the probability to go to work to attract, create, and bring into our physical world what we come to know as our truth or reality based on advanced beliefs. Regardless of which of the two minds is allowed to be in command, it will always result in the kind and quality of day-to-day life experiences and stories, or our explanations about why our lives unfold the way they do, that we individually have for ourselves. A person can change their conscious thinking to be fully aware of their consciousness. In other words, if an individual is worried about money, the conscious mind is continually attentive towards the lack of money. By attaching an emotion to it, in this case fear, it stockpiles it in the subconscious mind as reality. This worry or perception is reserved as a belief. Their perception is one of lack, and therefore that is what they see in their life. Should a person's consciousness choose a different set of values to believe, the subconscious will eventually follow suit. Whatever we deposit into the financial institution of our intellect, we will have for later retrieval. The only thing to withdraw when we go to the bank in our mind is what we put in there. By using our conscious minds to make more accurate and progressive deposits into our subconscious brains, we are given the choice to withdraw more beneficial circumstances of our choosing. Fortunately, the conscious mind has the capacity to analyze itself and become conscious of itself. With the intelligence to evaluate and interpret the thoughts it's thinking or producing, it has the faculty to consciously adjust those thoughts to foster new ones. Therefore, it is able to overwrite old data stored in the subconscious mind. This is an extremely powerful and important fact when considering coveted change. Use the comparison of learning to drive a car. Recall all of the details that took place with the education involved. To become proficient enough that the brain went into autopilot mode, there was a lot of practice. We can also request our brains to become accomplished in autopilot mode for other constructive and favorable outcomes. In fact, for everything we really want. If you had to drive a car every day in the same conscious manner you did when you first discovered how, it would make driving something that took a great deal of effort. Most of us experience ease in driving because of the way our mind takes over for us. We are fortunate that our brains work in this manner so as to assume the pilot seat. With the knowledge of how to utilize this particular skill for personal gain, we can encounter the same satisfaction in other choice areas of our lives. This works after implementing a conscious effort that produces a payoff once our autopilot mode, or the subconscious mind, accepts the new commands and implements them. The mind is nothing more than the sum total of a person's habits that are based on experience.